Hey everybody, in this episode of the Effective E-commerce podcast, I want to talk about getting your product manufactured, shipping, finding a 3PL, a third-party logistics company, and all the other logistics that come with starting an online store. But before we get started, I did want to say thank you to everybody who's left a 5-star review on iTunes, and specifically, I think it's Murphy Studios. You won this month's contest, so just send me an email and you get a free one-on-one consulting session with me. We'll talk about whatever you want in the world of e-commerce. So anyone else listening that hasn't left a 5-star review on iTunes, go to iTunes, go to the Effective E-commerce podcast, leave a 5-star review, and you'll be entered in a chance to win a free one-on-one consulting session with me. I pick a new winner every month, and the earlier you get in your entry, the more chances you have because the more months that will be ahead of that time. So thank you. Plus, if you leave a 5-star review, it helps out the podcast. It lets me know that you like what's going on. And when I start getting guests on the show, it will allow me to get higher caliber of guests because a lot of guests won't go on shows with only 12 5-star reviews, which is what I currently have. So let's get that number bumped up. But without any further ado, let's get into today's episode. And I do want to say a lot of the topics I talk about, I do consider myself a pretty qualified person to talk about it. Not necessarily an expert with everything, but I know a lot about. This is a topic that I know some about. This isn't a topic that I'm an expert on by any means, and I do have some friends that are experts that I am going to be trying to get on the show in later episodes, and I might even edit this episode in the future to include their feedback. But I have had products manufactured, I have done shipping, I have found 3PLs, so I do know a little bit of what I'm talking about. So I do want to impart some of my wisdom, but keep in mind this is not the definitive guide. Like I will try to make some of my other episodes much more of a definitive guide. This one is just my experiences so far. So that being said, let's start off with how to get your product manufactured. And I want to start this conversation by letting you know, anyone that manufactures products for a living, their job is to make it as easy as possible for you to find them, to hire them, and to pay them, basically. To make their whole job is to make your process of manufacturing a product as easy as possible. And I know when I was first starting with Performance Nut Butter, I was really nervous because I was like, I've never manufactured a product before. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But then I realized that I'm paying people to help me. That's the whole point of hiring a manufacturer, is you're paying them to help you. So they're going to know stuff that you don't know. So I'll walk you through the process of what I did first off. And obviously different products are different. I was doing a product made in the USA. If it's over in China, it's slightly different, but you'll see how that applies here because part of my product was made in China. And maybe I'll even grab that in a second here. But anyways, the main thing I want to convey is I first tried to find someone that was going to do the co-packing for me, the actual manufacturing. So I just did a lot of Googling around. I went to the grocery store and I looked at competing nut butter products and I called them up and I said, hey, do you do any kind of co-packing? And sure enough, one of them said yes. One of them said, yeah, you know what? We have some extra space. We have some extra ability to produce in our facility because they're not always using the machines. They're like, you know what? It makes sense for us to hire out that extra capacity. So they don't always use the machines. They want someone that is willing to pay for use on those machines and they're willing to lend their expertise. So that was the first step for me, was getting a co-packer. From there, I kind of started asking them, well, okay, what do I need? And I first hired them to come up with a formula to some degree. I already had it narrowed down. I already knew that I wanted it to be a coconut, macadamia nut, and cashew product with Himalayan sea salt. I wasn't sure of the exact proportions. So I hired him and it was $75 an hour and it ended up taking him about 10 hours, which was a very fair deal because that included some shipping, that included actual production of the product and a few other things. So I was very happy with that rate, especially because my consulting rate is higher than that. And, you know, this guy has a lot of experience in the nut butter business. So it made sense to hire him. So that was the first step. I got a co-packer, got a manufacturer. I found an expert that's already done this before and I hired him. The next thing I had to do was I had to find all the different nuts. So for my this current production run that's about to take place, I went to, I'm trying to remember exactly what I did. First off, trade shows. I did go to a trade show, was part of it. The second thing was I asked him, who do you buy your nuts from? So most of the nuts, the cashews and the coconut, I bought from someone that my co-packer, the manufacturer, buys from all the time. The other one, I just honestly Googled it. And I just called a bunch of people. I probably called 20 different companies that were based in some directory that said that they sold macadamia nuts. And of that, only one or two of them actually had dry roasted macadamia nuts like I wanted. So that was most of the walkthrough on how I did my manufacturing. Now, interestingly enough, there's two other parts to Performance Nut Butter. One is the actual pouches themselves, because Performance Nut Butter comes in individual serving pouches. And the film that you have to get produced for that's very expensive. I asked my co-packer, who do you use for the film? And he told me. And so they had all the specs already there. So I think this comes back to hiring experts to help you out with things like this. The other thing, and this was actually kind of more of a challenge, was the boxes. So I had to get boxes produced. And for anybody watching on the YouTube video here, I'll show you really quick what the boxes look like. So here's, for anyone watching on the YouTube channel, here's an example of what the boxes look like. I mean, it's basically just a cardboard box with some printing on it. And when I talked to my co-packer and I asked him if he had anyone he recommended, he did, and they were way more expensive. The person that my co-packer introduced me to, the minimum order was 10,000. And keep in mind, I only needed 3,000 boxes. And the price per box was going to be 49 cents at that 10,000 price range. I was able to go to China and get it for 42 cents a box with a minimum order of 3,000, saving me thousands of dollars, which is was really nice. So I'd say I do have some experience with working overseas, with getting products made in China. The big thing is I had to send them a wire transfer, which is a huge pain in the butt, but you get it done. It's not that big of a deal. It cost about $50 to send the wire transfer over. I had to go to my bank like 4 different days in a row to send the wire transfer. They were totally confused by it. But anyways, China, there's a reason that China is such a threat to U.S. manufacturing, and it's because they can do it for so much cheaper and a lot of times better. They actually, a lot of the stuff that they can do over there with the machines they have, they can't do that with a lot of American machines. And it's because it's cheaper for them. They produce the machines in China, and so they have the machines ready there to help with the printing process, if that makes any sense. It's too expensive for a lot of American companies to buy those machines and run those machines. So that's one of the big things I want to talk about here. So that's my overview of how to get your product manufactured. It's really not that tough, I think, is the main synopsis of this whole thing. There are people out there that are literally doing everything in their power to try to get you to hire them. They're really trying to help you out. So that's the first piece of the puzzle we'll talk about. The next thing I wanted to talk about was shipping. And this is a question I've gotten a few times. I actually just got it yesterday during my YouTube Live. And if you don't know, I do a YouTube Live on Wednesdays at 5 PST, 8 EST, where I just talk about some different e-commerce stuff and answer any Q&As that people have. I guess just answer any Qs people have. The answer is implied there. But shipping, someone asked me, how do I ship our products? And I thought that was kind of a funny question because it's so self-explanatory to me. It's so obvious. First off, if you're only sending one item a day or you're just starting out, you'd ship it just like you'd ship to any of your friends. If you had to send a gift to somebody, it's not that complicated. But obviously, as you get a little bit higher up and you start getting more orders, you got to do more shipping. I recommend using a platform like Shipping Easy. And the cool thing about Shipping Easy is, and there's a lot of them out there, but Shipping Easy is what we use for my dance clothing company. I do have a link with them. It's effectiveecommerce.com/shippingeasy. If you want to get signed up, I think your first month is free and I get a little kickback. So I'll give you a free consultation session. And just to let you know, I saw that they had an affiliate link, so that's why I signed up. But we have been using them for years. They are a great company and they integrate really well with Shopify and all the different e-commerce platforms. But basically how it works, and I might do a video about this sometime soon, is it pulls in all your orders and you can buy postage right from there and print postage. And we print postage using a thermal printer, which sounds fancier than it really is. It's basically, and I'll show this in a future video, but it's basically a printer, pretty small, and we get sticker paper that goes with it. And instead of it using ink, it's thermal sticker paper. So it uses kind of a heat source to make black ink, basically. Instead of it using black ink, it almost like burns the paper. So it prints using burned marks instead of ink. So shipping easy is what I would recommend as far as that goes. Now let's talk about 3PLs, which stands for third-party logistics. A lot of people don't want to do the shipping themselves, and especially if you only have one SKU. So for instance, the Performance Nut Butter, I might use a 3PL because what would happen is I'd send them 1,000 boxes, let's say, and every time I get an order, they ship it. They take care of all the work, and I just sit back and collect the money, which is really nice because then I don't have to deal with warehousing it. So different 3PLs have different things. You can also use Amazon. Amazon obviously has Fulfilled by Amazon, so you can send in products to Amazon and they will ship it for you. But on top of that, they'll also ship out orders that aren't made on Amazon, orders that are made on your own Shopify website, for instance. So you can look into that, but and I think it's pretty cheap. The problem with that is if you use Amazon, it comes in an Amazon Prime box, which to me is like free. You're giving out free advertising, and I don't think it's as good of a user experience. But that's up to you to determine. 3PLs can range in price. I looked into it for Performance Nut Butter, and one person wanted $5.35 flat rate shipped anywhere in the United States, which isn't awful because keep in mind, they're doing warehousing, they're shipping it for me, they're packing it for me, they're doing all the work. All I have to do is sit back and collect the check. So it's not awful. A lot of 3PLs their pricing structure is different. They want to charge you a monthly fee. They want to charge you storage fees. They want to charge you all these different things. I would say avoid that if you can. Someone reached out to me from a 3PL that they had the flat rate, and I thought that was really smart and kind of a cool idea. So if you want information about them, just send me an email, travis@effectiveecommerce.com. And today's episode is going to be relatively short because I think that's most of the topics that I wanted to cover. And if you have any questions about any of that stuff, please feel free to reach out, email me, or leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below the video. Obviously, as I said at the beginning of the show, please go to iTunes, leave that 5-star review. It is the most important thing to me. Just like you need reviews on your e-commerce store, just like you want reviews on Amazon, this is like that for me. Like, you know how you get a new review on Amazon, it just brightens your day. It's the same way for me in iTunes. So there's that. I did just launch the online store A to Z course. It's a 5-week course where I'm going to take a group of 10 people and we're going to go all the way from an idea all the way to a finished e-commerce store. And at the end of the 5 weeks, you're going to have a finished e-commerce store that's going to be really dialed in because I'm going to be helping you with it. And you're going to also have marketing. We're going to end the last week, week 5. We're going to do a complete marketing plan, which should help you out for the next few months, next year ahead of your business. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's going to be very helpful to a lot of people. It's what I wish I would have had when I first started my business because I was going in so many different directions. I wasn't sure what the clear path is. My hope is to help people with that. And funny enough, I'm going to be launching Performance Nut Butter at the same time. So I'm going to be doing it again for a second time, launching a new company. So there's that. You can go to effectiveecommerce.com/AZ, lowercase AZ. And this is something I'm going to be doing every few months. I'm going to be launching this course over and over again, taking people through the course, graduating it. So you can definitely check that out. I do have some courses as well, effectiveecommerce.com if you want to check those out. Pretty much going to leave it there though. That was already a lot. Thank you so much for listening and or watching this video, and I hope this was helpful.